Italy, the 1800s. Factories choking the skies, children abandoned in the streets, boys sleeping under bridges, teenagers filling prisons, violence, poverty, hopelessness. And in the middle of it all stood one priest, not rich, not powerful, not feared, but loved. A man who believed that even the worst child could become a saint. His name was John Bosco, and history would remember him as Don Bosco, the father of youth, the saint who transformed thousands of lives with kindness. John Bosco was born on August 16, 1815, in a tiny farming village near Turin, Italy. His family was desperately poor. When John was only 2 years old, his father died, leaving his mother, Mama Margaret, to raise 3 boys alone. There was no comfort in that house, no luxury, only survival. But from the beginning, something about John was different. At age 9, he had a dream so vivid, so powerful, that he would remember it for the rest of his life. In the dream, John saw a crowd of boys, shouting, blaspheming, fighting, and instinctively, he tried to stop them with his fists. But then, a mysterious man appeared, and said words that would define John Bosco's entire mission, not with blows, but with gentleness and charity. The woman beside him told John, "One day, you will understand." John woke up confused, but deep inside, he knew. God was calling him, not to the rich, not to kings, but to lost children. As a boy, John discovered something unusual. If you wanted children to listen, you first had to win their hearts, so he learned magic tricks, juggling, acrobatics, tightrope walking. He memorized sermons, then gathered children in fields, performing tricks before teaching them prayers and the gospel. Even as a child, Don Bosco understood something revolutionary. Joy opens the door to God, and maybe that's why children trusted him immediately, because he didn't treat them like problems, he treated them like family. But becoming a priest seemed impossible. The family had no money. Sometimes John had to stop studying just to work the fields. He labored as a farmhand, a tailor, a waiter, a shoemaker's assistant, anything to survive. And yet, he refused to abandon his dream. Knowledge became his weapon, faith became his strength, and suffering became his preparation. Eventually, through incredible perseverance, John entered the seminary. Years later, he would finally become a priest. But God's real mission for him was only beginning. December 8, 1841, a moment that changed history forever. Inside a church in Turin, a poor orphan boy named Bartolomeo Garelli wandered into the sacristy. Dirty, afraid, uneducated, the sacristan drove him away violently, but Father Bosco stopped him. "Why are you hitting him?" The answer came quickly, "He doesn't know how to serve Mass." And Bosco replied, "Then teach him." That conversation changed everything. Don Bosco sat with the boy, learned his story, prayed with him, and invited him back. Soon another boy came, then another, then dozens. And without realizing it, Don Bosco had begun what would become known as the Oratory. Turin during the Industrial Revolution was brutal. Thousands of young boys flooded the city looking for work. Many became homeless, many turned to crime, many ended up in prison. Don Bosco visited those prisons personally, and what he saw horrified him. Children, abandoned, forgotten, treated like animals. And Don Bosco realized something. If these boys had someone to love them, someone to guide them, their lives could have been different. So he made a decision. He would dedicate his life to saving young people, especially the ones nobody else wanted. The Oratory had no permanent home. One week, they met in a churchyard. Another week, in an empty field. Another, under a shed. People complained constantly. "They're too noisy. These boys are dangerous. This priest is insane." At one point, people even tried to have Don Bosco institutionalized. But Don Bosco refused to quit. because every child mattered to him, even the violent ones, even the criminals, even the forgotten. Then came one of the most important figures in Bosco's mission, his mother, Mama Margaret. She sold what little she had and moved into the oratory to help care for the boys. She became a mother to hundreds of homeless boys, feeding them, washing clothes, caring for the sick, loving children the world had discarded. The oratory wasn't just a school anymore. It became a home, a family, a refuge. Don Bosco's method was unlike anything people had seen before. Most schools at the time relied on fear, punishment, violence, humiliation. But Bosco believed, children grow through love, not terror. This became known as the Salesian preventive system, built on 3 pillars: reason, religion, and loving kindness. He once said, "It is not enough for boys to know they are loved, they must feel loved," and because of that, children trusted him completely. Throughout his life, Don Bosco experienced vivid dreams and visions. Some believed they were prophetic, others called them miracles. One of the most famous was the dream of the 2 pillars. In the dream, the church appeared as a giant ship under attack. Storms, cannons, chaos. But then 2 pillars rose from the sea, one crowned with the Eucharist, the other with merry help of Christians, and the ship found safety between them. For Don Bosco, the message was clear. The church would survive future darkness through devotion to Jesus in the Eucharist and trust in Mary. The oratory exploded in growth. Soon Don Bosco was opening schools, workshops, dormitories, printing presses, training centers. He taught boys trades, carpentry, printing, shoemaking. Education became a path out of poverty, and holiness became possible for ordinary children. He didn't just save souls, he gave children futures. In 1859, Don Bosco founded the Salesians, named after Saint Francis de Sales, the saint of gentleness. The mission spread rapidly: Italy, France, Spain, South America, eventually the entire world. And alongside Saint Mary Mazzarello, Don Bosco also founded the Salesian Sisters, bringing the same mission to girls. Don Bosco didn't just educate children, he raised saints. One of the most famous was Dominic Savio, a teenager, joyful, pure-hearted, who once said, "Here we make holiness consist in being cheerful." That was Bosco's spirituality. Not sadness, not fear, but joyful holiness. A reminder that sainthood was possible for everyone, even children. But the work came at a cost. For decades, Don Bosco barely rested. He begged constantly for money, worked endlessly, counseled thousands, built schools, traveled, wrote books. He gave everything away, even his strength. By old age, his body was failing, but his spirit never did. January 1888. Don Bosco was dying. The boys gathered around his bed weeping. The man who had rescued them was leaving. And yet, even in his final moments, his thoughts remained fixed on the young. When he died on January 31, 1888, the world already knew a saint had lived among them. Today, the Salesians of Don Bosco serve in more than 130 countries. Schools, missions, shelters, youth centers, churches. Millions of children have been shaped by the vision of one poor priest from Italy, a man who saw greatness inside broken children. Don Bosco once said, "Run, jump, laugh, but do not sin," because he understood something beautiful. God is not the enemy of joy, and holiness is not reserved for the perfect. Sometimes, all it takes to change a life is one person who refuses to give up on you. And maybe that's why St. John Bosco still matters today. Because somewhere, right now, there is a child waiting for someone to believe in them, just like Don Bosco did. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs hope, and follow for more stories of saints who didn't just believe, they lived it.